So there's a video called "A History of White People" by David Witham, one of the whitest men I've come across. I like David, don't get me wrong. Trust me, I'm actually very glad that he is back on YouTube. Um, but it's a funny point that he raises, um, and it's a funny point that people address that have no clue what they're talking about. Uh, I've heard that you're it's from me from other people. Oh well, you're passable as this. Um, as I've gotten older, it seemed like people responded me to more as white, but now as I get older, since your nose gets bigger as you get older, and in different traits and everything, you know, it used to be, people would ask me questions about, my name, or they would have seen my parents and they'd say, well, oh, in a nice way, what are you? And I'd say, well, Irish, and also have Syrian and Latino blood as well. I try to make it vague, but I didn't want to say Arab. So I didn't want to explain like Colombian and Argentine, right? And not, Ger- German Argentine or anything like that. Um, because Nazi always gets thrown around, and growing up and being pulled between three different directions: Latino, Hispanic, or sorry, Latino, Irish, and Arab. And when you go for a job application, it'll say white, non Hispanic. And under the white section, it'll say Middle Eastern, North African, European, as if all those people are one race. Whereas I see at least six races in Europe. You have the Slavs, you have the Latins, you have the Grecians, you have the Celts, you have the Germanic, um, you have the Basque, uh, and then in the Middle East you have Arab and Persian. Persians aren't Arab, they're Aryan. And then why not extend that to the rest of the Aryan and Caucasian people, like people living in India, you know? Um, and then especially white non-Hispanic. And there were people who didn't have a drop of mestizo blood in them, or even Latin blood in them, who were like from like Scottish ancestry, and their parents had moved to a Latin American country, and all of a sudden they get to mark down that they're Latino. That infuriated me. Um, and maybe I grew up way too sensitive to race, and then getting picked on by Black Americans. This didn't happen with um, Black Africans or Black Latinos, but the Black American does not does not like it when somebody else is of a mixture that they don't consider equal or better, or you get a lot of hard time. And those of you who are mixed know what I'm talking about. When people say, "Oh, you mixed only means part black and then something else," and it's like, no, no, and white being the default. I mean, trace it back. White was just um, Anglo-Saxon, right? I mean, the Irish weren't white, and then physically the Italians aren't white, right? Neither are the Southern Spanish nor the Southeastern Portuguese. They're not white, nor are the Albanians or many of the people on the Greek Isles are white. And as for the Slavs, are they considered white? I never grew up considering them white. They're Slavs. They were different. They look different than the rest of the European. And maybe that is just from Nazism or whatever, of it getting taught in schools. But no, they're non-whites. Um, and this is me defending an idea like this when I was younger, somebody who has blood that's, Syrian and South American, that has both Spanish and Native American blood in it, the mestizo, and Irish, who were, the slaves of the English, England's first colony for 800 years. Um, but where when I changed schools and moved more towards the suburbs, it was, the guilt-ridden white Anglo-Saxon Protestants would just lavish everything on the black kids. They could do no wrong, and if you were anything else, then tough luck. Um, and it almost created race tension between the between us, between Spanish speakers, as well as Arabs. So I was kind of an outcast in both groups, even though I was accepted by both groups. Um, but neither group, even their parents and family get-togethers, liked anybody who was a Black American, because there's a stigma against the Black American. But becoming white is slowly happening. And it shocks me nowadays they consider Italians white. Are you kidding me? They might be European, but they're not white, are they? I mean, look at them. I'm not trying to denigrate them. I'd be happy if I found out I had Italian blood in me, but they're not white, right? I mean, they might be Caucasian and Aryan, but they're not white. Why not just call somebody from Central India white? Because they're Caucasoid and Aryan. So, yeah. So I'd love to be a bunch of different things. Growing up, it's not fun. And I love it when I'd say, when I'd say, oh yeah, I'm Hispanic, um, Celtic. I would say white because people used to get irritated when I'd say Arab, Hispanic, and white. Some reason they would get irritated that white got added, so I'd say Irish or Celtic, and they'd say, "Oh, now I can see it." No, you can't. I always thought, no, you couldn't. But at the same time, I always thought everybody can tell that I'm not really white. And then the bullshitness of I've heard these Black Lives Matter people talk about passability. Oh, well, they're passable as white. Well, I don't know. Am I truly passable as white? Um, and if so, like, I'd rather not be, especially when I was growing up, because somebody tells a joke against Arabs or Latinos, it's okay, whatever, laugh it off. I know it's just a joke, and then somebody says, "Oh, and they always say Mexican. He's part Mexican, even though I don't have a drop of Mexican blood in me. It's from Colombia and other parts of South America. Um, and then everything gets real quiet. Like I lied to somebody. Like I lied to everyone by not announcing it. So that's my view on on history of white, and I don't like that it's just a black and white dialogue. In fact, I don't think black people know what it's like to be another ethnicity. They're not a minority. They're not an ethnicity. They're one of the most American things. You know, they don't have a peculiar or particular culture other than what's already in America. That may seem very offensive and very harsh, but with the exception to the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants who also spent here the longest. Your ancestors owned slaves really when? And there were black people that threw rocks and eggs at my still living grandparents um, on one side because they, you know, they were immigrants. Go home, go back to blah 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 terrorists. So black people had what 160 years to get over slavery, even though there's slavery still going on in the world. Um, and the whites poured a lot of blood into the soil to end it. But yet Barack Obama bombs the shit out of Arab nations, slaughtering people, and you praise him. Black Lives Matter starts with, you know, cops, white cops shot and murdered black youth in Chicago. That's only been going on for the last 60 years. Let's put that up at the headlines while the bombing of innocent Arabs begins and the destruction of Syria begins, and we train ISIS in Libya. What's new about black poor black people getting gunned down by police in Chicago? Tell me what's new about it. Black Lives Matter started to cover up the genocide and the ethnic cleansing that's going on, that America is perpetrating against the Arabs. It's a smart move by the American government, by Obama, to destroy Syria. May God save Syria. Peace to you, and I hope this is a lesson. This is just my feelings. I don't hate um, individual black people. I have individual black people as friends or whatever, but when it comes to race and stuff like this, it does boil my blood that it's black and white. That those are the only two colors that matter. And if you're mixed, well, fuck you. Especially if you're Arab and non-Muslim. And if you've left Islam, then it's even worse, right? Then you're shit.